Hi and welcome to the Weekly Market View. I'm back with Bill this week. So we saw the culmination, the conclusion of the Fed meeting and the release of the statement yesterday. We didn't see any action, but everyone's talking about this statement. The reaction in the market seems to be that now we're calling for a taper a bit earlier. What did you make of it? What was your take on it all?
I was, not that I'm a great genius, but they did said exactly what I was expecting. And the question, what I was maybe thinking about, would they be more dovish? To me, they said exactly what they did impose was, from last one, the beige book, okay? Basically said moderate to modest growth. Yeah. They also mentioned this sequester, which we know. But you see, one of the things, and I think I may have discussed this with Nick last week, we got confused.com, the Fed, May, June, and September. This was at a time when they had all the data, okay? Now, you know, what data they have, especially after yesterday's ADP number, you know, how bad could next week's non-farm payroll be?
Do you think it will be quite bad?
Well, you know, my call for last month was 182. What did it come in? 148? Yes, we had another, you know, 1/10 to 1% drop. I mean, I could see almost the same type of number, 145, 150. Well, that's, you know, again, because the distortion, you know, then would it go from 150 to 300,000 because of all the layoffs coming back, and you know, if California's still having an IT problem. Excuse me, but I just see a modest to moderate recovery. But I think the interesting thing was, you know, if you were watching it, I think we sold up like you know, 50 points on the Dow, gold. I mean, you know, thank goodness I was short the euro. I mean, you know, the euro got murdered today.
So do you think people are getting a bit carried away? We seem to have forgotten about, you know, there was talk of Bernanke going to end it, the switch over to Yellen. That seems to sort of been just disregarding the statement focused on. Do you think that's going to come back into when people think about it?
There's going to be a question: is this guy named Rand Paul, or one of the guys who's a diehard Republican? I'm sure you know he's still totally upset that you know that he did when they put the all the lights off in the states, and he's already said that he will hold up, quote, her potential nomination. I don't think the people in the United States will take that anymore, okay? Let's don't mix economics with politics. They just don't mix, okay? Also, I think it would be quite unfair to start something, you know, in Bernanke's midnight hour, okay? It's sort of like, you know, this is my last day as Prime Minister, so I think I'll, you know, release all the countries from the Commonwealth, et cetera, et cetera. And so therefore, I think we'll probably go through the January meeting, and then probably, I don't know when the March meeting is, but that's when I'd still expect it. I think it would be totally unfair to bring in a new Fed chairperson when the rules have changed.
Yeah, and we've still got all the debt ceiling.
Yes, exactly right.
Also in Europe this morning, we saw some really poor readings for the CPI data and also some poor unemployment numbers. Again, more chatter in the markets about possible refi rate cut in December. Do you think that's plausible?
You mean here in the UK?
No, in Europe.
Well, I think this is what's interesting, okay? Because going into Friday, you know, when we were 138, we moved above, you know, the yearly high of the euro, we were going off and off and off. And then all of a sudden, Mr. Novotny, I don't know where he's from, but he said, oh, there's absolutely no reason for the European Central Bank to even consider a rate cut. Well, all of a sudden, we lost 75 pips. And I think he did this deliberately to all the news reporters who were waiting to go to the press conference next Thursday from the European Central Bank. It wasn't a question of what they did or what they said. Every question was going to be, yes, sir, can the Eurozone sustain a 139, 140 with the euro? Well, they don't have to worry about that right now. So if, you know, and these are my thoughts only from Mr. Draghi and the other people, I'm sure they're quite relieved that the euro is like 137-ish and going lower, because 139, 140, you know, would be an horrific number. And as you said, what have we got, a 4-year low? There is no inflation, okay? We saw German unemployment yesterday. Yes, I know Spain has come out of recession, but...
Also, we saw UK confidence actually dipping, and we've had some better data, or generally better data out of the UK. So what do you think really might be behind this dip in confidence? I was wondering if you had any thoughts.
I think it's very easy. All you had to do was look at the nationwide house prices. Okay? When we're talking about house prices, I know London is different than the rest of the year, but they went up £50,000 last month. Okay? Now, most people are lucky if they're getting a 1% pay rise. Yes, I know petrol prices have come down. but food prices are going up, and of course, if you read the paper today, there's not going to be any wine to buy in the next 2 or 3 years. So it's a situation where that's why confidence is going down. I mean, all of a sudden, house prices are going up. If you're concerned, I don't think interest rates in this country start going up until mid-2015. But all of a sudden, if nothing else, if you were looking to buy a house, if you were looking to make a purchase, especially a house, all of a sudden, that's going to cost you a lot more. But your pay rise has not gone, okay? It's still 1%. So we're looking at the spread, even at 2.7%. It's the widest between inflation and salaries, okay, in 45 years.
Purchasing powers.
Yeah, see, so it's not improving.
Moving on to more sort of Asia, we've had Japan obviously concluded their meeting as well, their central bank meeting. They're sort of sticking to their 2% inflation target and holding with that. Do you think that Japan is on track? There's a talk of like these 3 prongs of the Abenomics, how people say it. But a lot of people saying that the third one, he's not really implementing any of these structural reforms.
No,
do you think that this is all a bit sort of a facade at the moment, and things are getting better because of the talk and the enthusiasm?
Yeah, I think so, and also because of its neighbor with China, okay? And the simple fact is that anybody who's been around, I mean, for the last 20 years, it's been deflation, not inflation. And again, this was well before you were born. And not really too many people out there that still remember the Nikkei at 47,000. So that started to come around. And it's also a situation where the market maybe didn't go crazy during the first 16 days of October when the U.S. was shut.
Yeah.
It was a simple fact, okay, you got Abenomics, you got the ECB, you've got Bank of England, quantitative easing, the Fed quantitative. So they felt we got 4 of the major central banks that will bail us out, okay? So I think that probably allayed any fears that, the doom and gloom in the market was going to end. But I mean, I think it's a situation where, what I think probably, unless you've been to Japan, unless you've studied Japan, I mean, the Japanese are net savers, okay? And they were net savers for 20 years when they had negative return on money. So it's a question of that, but that didn't, allay any fears there for them not to save.
And then you touched on China just then, again coming back in, sort of a surge in bad loans at the banks, and also that they've had to inject this liquidity again after a few weeks of not to avoid the cash squeeze. I know that we've touched on it in the past, and you said it's sort of been an ongoing thing. Do you think that it's just going to have to continue?
Yeah, it will. I mean, the simple fact is, we talk about right now, I think anybody that's not being realistic about the real potential, if it already had started, about a housing bubble. I mean, I even said something earlier this week on clients that I think one of the things the government could do would be end this Help to Buy scheme. It's probably working far better than they ever expected. And I mean, I look in my village, okay, it's only 6,000 people, but say mid-September, just because I just go by these houses driving to the train at least once a week, okay? They were all for sale, right? This time last week, they all had an SOLD sign on it, okay? So we see in that. The thing in China is the simple fact is their economy, where it took us maybe 100 years for the Industrial Revolution, it took them like, 5 minutes. Yeah. And all of a sudden they've gone from an agrarian society to, man, I want to have everything. All you got to do is go to Bista Village, one of those discount places. Yeah. They're all Chinese up there, and they're not spending a $5. So it's a situation where the key thing here with China is, maybe not now, but one thing that they are looking to do is they are going to have a super overheating economy because people are spending on big ticket items, and housing is now a real problem. And one of the things that, that is at least saving China is in China. Here, like if you live in Wiltshire, okay, if you lived in China, you'd have to get special permission to move from Wiltshire to Hampshire. You cannot move, I guess they call it provinces. You cannot move provinces because then, because if that had happened, you'd have, 95% of the population in Beijing and Shanghai, and there'd have been 60 billion acres of nobody. So they do not allow. So that, therefore, some of these villages, but also if you look at any of these. These specials that I don't know, whatever station puts on. I mean, there are towns that were made in China. They almost look like Spain. You're talking about, housing projects for like, 250,000 people. Okay. I mean, it looks like a monopoly board. I mean, you got roads and stoplights, but no people. Okay. So again, will have to be a redistribution of some of these people. But I think one of the things that China is doing is the simple fact is, excuse me, they're trying to not control the bubble, but at least say this could happen, because they do realize, you know, I mean, if you've been to China, I mean, I was there, this would have been a month before the changeover. When was that? Well, like 84. Then I was back 7 years ago. I mean, when I was there in 84, I mean, there were 35 trillion bicycles in one automobile, right? Now, there's one bicycle, and that's like an equivalent of the Victorian Albert Museum. I mean, everybody's got an automobile. So we've seen an incredible evolution in spendable incomes over there.
In your view, has it started to cool down that you said it's overheating? Is that yet to come?
You know, I'm very positive on China, okay? You know, because, I mean, we were concerned, what was this, a year ago? Oh my God, poor China, they only had 7.2% GDP or something.
Yeah.
We won't have 7.2% like in 3 years combined here in the UK.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, one of the reasons why we may have gotten ourselves in this depression about 2 or 3 years ago, feeling, well, we don't really have to worry about it, okay? You know, we have a slight problem with Lehman Brothers, but the Chinese will bail us out. Well, you know, they did a phenomenal job, but not as good as some of the ultra optimists were expecting, okay? And I'm positive on China. Again, one of the things I will have to say, and we had a client seminar a couple of weeks ago, the question came up about half a dozen times about when is China going to, you know, make the renminbi or the Chinese yuan convertible. Well, I don't see that anytime soon. For the simple fact is that when this current government went in, well, I get maybe in a second, but 12 years ago, whoever, I'm going to attempt on television to say it because I get it all wrong, but he sat up in front of, you know, everybody and said, China, we're one economy, but two currencies. And maybe some people don't realize that the other Chinese currency is the Hong Kong dollar. It has been for, since the war ended. And all you've got to look back is one of the great miracles in Asia was Taiwan. Well, 72% of Taiwan's exports went to Hong Kong. because China would deal with them because of the, but if it was going to Hong Kong, you know where it was going, okay? So it was a situation where, you know, I'm positive on the Middle East, I will, the Far East, but I will have to say is, I'm not concerned, and neither is the U.S., if China becomes numero uno. I mean, we never really wanted, we became numero uno by default, you know. Bob and Leroy, man, they just want to sit back, give me a couple of cold beers, and let me watch the World Series, right? You know, they don't even know where England is.
Yeah. Okay, well, brilliant. Thanks very much for